Hey guys, it's Michael checking in, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a stylized tree using Zbrush. Retopologizing the Zbrush made mesh in 3DS Max, and then texturing it in Mudbox. Alright, let's get started here. Alright, and right now I'm using a Z-sphere to get the base of the trunk ready. This is actually tree. The tree that I'm making right now, I actually learned how to make from a blog with a guy by the name of Sasha Hendricks. It's actually a spin to his creation of a bonsai tree that he actually made. You can find him on YouTube. Just type in, ZBrush tree, and he goes through how to make it in Maya and ZBrush. But yeah, right now I'm making the branches, getting the form of the tree that I like to make. I like using Z-spheres to make organic meshes too. They do a really good job of getting your shapes and everything already. Yep, and now I'm doing the branches here. Or not the branches, but the roots, sorry. Yep, the music in the background is Ivory Dreams by Sean Beeson. Downloaded it offline the other day. You can get it on the iTunes store as well. Just remastered it in Adobe Audition. Doing some more detail for the trunks. And using, the move tool. Doing a little bit of scaling as well. Oh, and to do that, you just press A. That makes the the Z-sphere mesh that you're working on. You can get a quick preview of it by pressing A. Side. Right now I'm in the Z-sketch area, sketching on the polygons. Essentially what Z-sketch is like, it's like have you ever done like realistic, not digital sculpting, realistic sculpting? Z-sketch is kind of like, to me personally, it's like adding clay, to your mesh. It's just, sculpting the clay on there. I thought that was it's a really neat feature in ZBrush. And some more sketching. Same thing, if you want to preview it, press A, because it doesn't use the Z-spheres now. Now it's using the data from the Z-sketch in order to get the form of the tree. And if you're using like a different application, like Mudbox or something like that, you could probably do something really similar to this, but you just have to go about it a couple of different ways. You probably want to make like your base mesh in 3ds Max, sculpt on it in Mudbox, go down to like a lower subdivision level in 3ds Max, and then you know, reinforce it with like some edge loops, then go back in the Mudbox and, you know, just keep doing it until you get a shape of a tree that you'd like to make. You know, it's just a different program. Doesn't have some of the features ZBrush doesn't have, like how Mudbox doesn't have some of the features that ZBrush doesn't have. But you know, you can get the same end result. It just, you know, it's more or less steps depending upon which way you choose to go about it. Shape's coming along pretty nice. Covering up holes at this point. No, you don't want any holes in your model. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, but I just do it for safe measure. Doing some more checking for holes. I think I turned it into a polymesh 3D polymesh at this point, so I'm going over to the curved tubes, and I'm adding. It's another way that I figured out, you know, how to add geometry. I might, I think this way I went into my geometry tab, and I went down to Dynamesh, added the detail, and just, you know, sculpted it out from there. I did one more loop because I had a really small hole. It's the model still at that point. Did another Dynamesh and added it to the current mesh with the clay tubes. And at this point I'm just smoothing down the rough edges. I'm at about, I think, 35,000 polygons. Then at this point I'm using clay tubes to add a little bit of geometry to the tree. Because at this point I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to be baking off a normal map from the retopologized mesh or not, but Actually didn't do it in the end. Didn't need to. But you know, this is just for safe measure. Adding detail to the tree and smoothing it out. Using clay tubes again. Trying to get like a slight bark feel, stylized normal bark feel for later, which I actually didn't need, but the event that you need it, I'm showing you how to do it. Clay tubes, smoothing. Adding a dent area in the tree. Trying to break up, you know, add some irregularities to the mesh. And right now I'm just playing with the masking, seeing if I want to move it or rotate it. I actually don't think I did in the end though. Done some trim dynamic. I think that's the brush I'm using right now. Flattening out the, you know, any huge bulges that I have in the tree. Having a bump. Some trees have bumps. A couple of them. More trim dynamic. Moving it. Just testing right now. I actually don't think I did much of that either. So I actually made about 6 trees right now, and some of them have awkward shapes, but I kind of wanted a straighter tree, because I didn't have too many of those. A lot of the stylized trees I made so far are like really stylized, exaggerated. That's the kind of shape I wanted to go for. Not with this one though. I wanted to keep it a little simple. Exporting it out right now. named it like Stylized Tree 006. Then I imported it into 3ds Max. A decimated mesh, I decimated it in ZBrush. Turned it around, rotated it a little bit because for some reason my mesh is coming in upside down in 3ds Max when I export them. Sometimes, then I just reset the X forms. All right, then went into 3ds Max, opened up my graphite modeling tools. Chose to draw on the surface. I picked the tree, and I used the topology tool to draw polygons on the tree. Then I think I had to go back and turn my offset up to like 0.1 or something like that, because I didn't want the polygons to be directly inside, in the exact same location as the tries that I have for my other mesh. Alright, and yeah, it's off a little bit, but I conformed everything down. More retopology tools and stuff. But yeah, I'm just going through right now, just drawing out the shape, the polys. Geometry ready all around the tree. I realized, I was like, wait a minute, that's way too many polys for this part of the tree. Just going around, moving edges, holding shift, getting shapes around the branches and things. Like I said, they don't have to be perfect right now because I'm going to conform them to the model later on. Getting the geometry set up for it, and I've bridged. Then right now I'm just clicking on each adjacent side, and then I'm just bridging them. More bridging. extrude graphite modeling tool. That's what I was using. I think it's called extrude. Right, then I'm just welding shapes together, moving them out. Just welding the verts together. Same thing around the roots for the tree. Getting some geometry ready for when I conform it to the shape. More polys makes it an easier conform, but I'm also trying to keep it pretty low poly, because you know it's a stylized tree. The video game that we're making is for us. Yeah, very cartoony, lots of texture detail, but not so much in the poly count of the trees. And I think it took me about 45 minutes to make this tree in ZBrush and retopologizing it. It was about 45 minutes. I really recommend if you're working on trees or models in general for an extensive period of time, take like a short break here and there. Go and recharge your batteries, because sometimes it can get a little tedious. All the technical stuff you have to do. You don't want to get, go rushing through stuff. Doesn't really help too much. It'll actually sometimes hurts more than it helps. Going around fixing the tree up still, plotting geometry. I think I do that as well. I do like an STL check to figure out where more than 5-sided edges are and stuff like that. Also, they've got a thing called XView in 3ds Max that's really helpful in finding irregular things in models. I actually go to it right here, search right now, and it actually does like this green line. It'll select stuff and you just go around and fix it. Try quadrify all, but I don't think it worked. And I went around connecting anything, all of my ingons, making them quads and tris. This is STL check. It's going around. I've got plenty of multiple edges I've got to fix up. I just conform it to the shape. Use Control Shift and then left click to bring my my brush size down. Yeah, I'm just conforming it right now. Used a little bit of smoothing just to here. Wasn't using it too much because like right there it was really bad. I do that a lot of times on the branches because the branches are smaller at the tips, and I'm using it to get it smaller at the ends of the branches. Also fixing up the model in other places. Did an auto smooth. Put it out. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty good considering it's like, I think this model was like 500 polys, somewhere around that area. Way less than 24K. Oh no, it was 291. I'm just saving it out as a 3ds Max file and the FBX file. I do save FBXs sometimes for backups in case my Max files get corrupted. And I also save procedurally too. You don't want to do all that work all over again. But here we go, and I think actually right here I did a mesh smooth. Raised the poly count up to about 1K. And that's a tree I did previously. I'm going to be resourcing some information from it. And I'm doing all of this in Mudbox 2012 to be exact. Getting my scene set up. Give me just one moment. Using two different Mudboxes. I think I used Unreal actually to unwrap it. They've got Max scripts too for unwrapping. If you go to Google, you can find a bunch of different programs that you can use to unwrap, or you can unwrap them yourself using the unwrap tools. Just something I do to sometimes speed up the workflow. Unwrapping isn't hard, but it can be a little time consuming depending upon what you're unwrapping. That's the model I made. It's already fully textured, and I'm going through right now just figuring out what colors it is that I used. base color down. Oh, I also grabbed some information from some images that I happen to have too that are pretty close to the color composition I wanted to use. I lowered the strength of that layer in Mudbox. I think this was about a 30-minute texture job. Yeah, it was about 25-30 minutes with the texture done too. Then I'm doing a color dodge layer because the color dodge gives it that kind of cartoony glow, you know, that you get on a lot of models. I'm figuring out what color is best, trying to match the trees up to a pretty similar texture palette. Oh, and I was doing a lot of back and forth too in this tutorial. I think my RAM was moving pretty slow. Take a couple of seconds for it to update. That's why I'm clicking on the layers a couple of times. Not that I was, you know, couldn't figure out what was going on. It was my RAM. Trying to find the dark edges for the tree right now. I'll make a new layer and figure out what color it is. Then I use the square stamp. These are going to be like, you know, the divots in the tree and stuff, where the bark separates. Add them all over the tree. It's that hole that I made in the tree from earlier. just like if you were doing textures in Photoshop, paint on different layers. Right now I'm doing the darker strokes that go in the center of the dark areas that I just laid out. Yeah, working on different layers, you know, makes it less destructive, I guess you could say, as working everything all on the same layer. No, they don't want to be sitting here, because that would be a nightmare if I had to go back and work on a single layer, you know, fix a lot of stuff. That would take forever. It's an unnecessary amount of time. Yeah, using different layers definitely removes that hassle for sure. Nice glowy looking tree. I'm erasing. I also use the square stencil for my eraser as well, because I don't want that. If you use the standard eraser, it gives you like that circular erase, and it doesn't really look that good. It can mess up, you know, parts of the image, so it'll interrupt some stuff. Interrupt the lines, you know, the dark strokes that I'm making. It'll interrupt all that. The square one, it looks a little less precise, and it kind of keeps, you know, with that cartoony style. And right here I'm just painting a darker color all around the tree, trying to remove that glow a little bit. It's on a separate layer as well. Some more dark strokes. And it's very stylized. I was trying to use the dark strokes around the limbs to signify where the limbs ended and the trunk of the tree started. Still all keeping in shape. Darkening up that whole area I made from earlier in Zbrush. dark strokes. Even darker ones on another layer. Also helps too. I actually didn't do it in either of my tree textures if you use naming conventions on the layers. You know, you can name them, and then that way you know exactly where your texture work is at. You know, I should have named that like dark strokes small or something. Would have helped me get to the layers a little easier instead of going around and clicking, you know, in that general area. That's what I was doing. Erasing excess needed stuff, because I think I used the airbrush tool as well, so I didn't want everything to look, you know, like, oh hey, you just drew that line there. Yeah, made it really small. It adds a little bit of a dotted effect, which is kind of cool. I personally thought so myself. My art lead okayed it, so and I'm still using the spray airbrush dark color. It's a separate dark color from the first one I used. I think it's actually the same color I used for the hole in the trunk. Just adding a little bit of detail and color variation. And now I've got enough colors here to where I can just pick through my tree, and you know, in the event that I needed certain colors for a certain part of the palette somewhere, I can just use them off the tree. That's what I was doing there. Nice assortment of browns and dark oranges. Yeah, that was my color palette that I've used for this tree. Add some more dark strokes. myself, and I think at this point I was doing lighter strokes. And the other sides to give it that like highlight of color. Or actually, I'm not doing it right now. I do it in a few. Still add dark tones. Orange, brownish orange, and yeah, using it to sketch detail. It's darker than the base color, but you know, it's lighter than that dark that I had. Check it out, another tree. And here I used this is a fiber stencil that I made in Photoshop. I just used that to add a little bit of those like, oh hey, this is hand drawn. That fibers filter. It gives it a nice illusion. So I did that on the previous tree as well. Texture part's pretty relaxing for me. You know, I've got all the hard stuff out of the way. It's just a cakewalk from there. Yep. It's a lot less tedious than retopology for sure. Yeah, I think right now I ended it up. That was my tutorial on making a stylized tree. I'll save this Mudbox file out. And yeah, not too difficult. Definitely said this tutorial is for intermediate level person, but yeah, thanks for watching.